With all of these takes flying about on the Hornets, is there an all-NBA caliber player the Hornets could pursue at the trade deadline? We'll discuss that player coming up today on Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube. There's Doug Branson. You can find him on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Also, make sure you go watch Yahoo Sports Daily on the internet, on internet.com. Actually, that's not the website. Just go to Yahoo Sports Daily and go check that out with Jason Fitz and Caroline Fenton. Doug Branson is behind the scenes producing the show. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. All right, let's get back to business. After having a passionate show yesterday because of all the rumors, of all of the things that are being said about the Hornets, specifically with Draymond Green, we couldn't go reference Brian Windhorst's glowing remarks about the Hornets. We can't go read Zach Lowe's tweet about how there's something brewing here in the Queen City with the positive, almost damn close to positive point differential on the season. We can't look at any of that because Draymond is saying that we're blatantly tanking. We can't even focus on any of the good stuff. We do have a trade rumor, trade report, even an upgrade from a rumor, from a source. All right, well, is this a source that's credible? Is this from a reporter that is substantiated? Oh, it is. All right. Hello, Steve Popper. Welcome. We appreciate you writing something on the Hornets here, giving us some content, baby. Steve Popper.
Popping off.
I don't know why. I like it. Steve Popper popping off. NBA columnist for Newsday Sports, Knicks writer and NBA columnist. Here's what he says. Quote, the New York Knicks have had conversations with Charlotte, Memphis, and Orlando about possibly moving Karl-Anthony Towns. Whispers around the league have begun to speculate on the possibility of the Knicks moving on from Karl-Anthony Towns. Now, league sources said that the talks have involved other teams, including Memphis, Orlando, and Charlotte. Doug, your thoughts after seeing what's popping?
I'm just glad that the Hornets are in these conversations, not for, little role players here and there, but trying to make the big deal. If it's true, if it's substantiated in some way, regardless of whether they actually get the deal done right now, I'm encouraged that they are exploring these different avenues to give up assets in order to go and get a player of Karl-Anthony Towns' ilk, because it is a recognition that the franchise understands that in order to eventually go and contend in the Eastern Conference, it's not going to be good enough to simply sit on your laurels and hope that year after year, every single player stays healthy and every single player develops in a significant way. And it also may be some recognition by the franchise that they have struck gold yet again in the NBA draft with Kon Knueppel. And that is an accelerator. When you have a player that is playing as well as Kon Knueppel is and making other players better in the way that Kon Knueppel is, it should give you confidence as a franchise to say, hey, we didn't know we were going to be ready right now, but it looks like we might be a little bit more ready or ahead of schedule because you have a player of Kon Knueppel's talent and looks like accelerating talent. I just think this is interesting. Karl-Anthony Towns, huge offensive talent. And one of these situations, Walker, that we've talked about for a long time, if the Hornets were going to do a deal like this, it would come in this situation where a team was frustrated, a team had a high payroll, they were shooting under their expectations. The Knicks, James Dolan says, hey, Knicks, you got to go win a finals. And they're slipping in the Eastern Conference right now. They've only won 2 out of their last 11 basketball games. Something has to change in New York. And if Charlotte can take advantage of that and get them for less than 3 first-round picks, I say go for it.
So Karl-Anthony Towns has been a 3-time All-NBA performer in his career. He's a 5-time All-Star. He was the Rookie of the Year a decade ago. He's 30 years old. which falls in this weird space of players for me, Doug. I don't know if you ever have any experience like this with other players, but they're really young until they're 30. Anthony Davis was this way. He was always one of the youngest great players in the league. Bam, he turns 30 years old. This is how it was with Karl-Anthony Towns. Oh, that's a young basketball player the Hornets might be able to pursue. Bam, 30 years old. There is no gray area. He becomes a gray basketball player because he's so old. So that's how it hit me. But you look at what he's done with the New York Knicks. You look at him last year on a playoff run that saw the Knicks reach the Eastern Conference Finals before, of course, they were ousted by the Indiana Pacers. I thought Karl-Anthony Towns was pretty damn good in that series. I thought he bullied Miles Turner off of the dribble. You're right. Offensively, Cat is really special. He's been one of the best shooting big men of all time. He might even tell you that he is the best shooting big man
Hold
of
on,
all
you
time.
had me. You didn't have to say best. You didn't even have to say best, Walker. You had me at shooting big man.
I know I did. I know what you like. And Karl-Anthony Towns, not only is he that, he is like the version. He is the poster child of what that is for you. A shooting big man, maybe the best shooting big man of all time. Now, he is shooting the worst 3-point percentage that he's posted in the NBA since his rookie year. But it's still 36%. It's still a threat. He's still a monster threat from deep. We know what he can bring offensively. What seems to be happening here, you mentioned the Knicks struggles. They're 0-4 in their last 4 games. You mentioned that they're 2-9 in their last 11. I saw that they were 2-8. They're bad losses, too. They're losing to the Mavericks. They get beat down. They lost to the Suns by 7. Suns good, but this is still happening in Madison Square Garden. They lost to the Kings. That's not good. They lost by double digits to Sacramento. They lost by 13 to the Warriors. They lost to the Hawks, the Spurs, the 76ers, the Pistons. Their only wins recently have come against the Trailblazers and the Clippers. I saw on Twitter, just looking him up, seeing what the Knicks fans are saying about Cat. Some of them don't like the way that he's being made to be the scapegoat in this situation where the Knicks are really struggling. You start to look at what he's done. Really, let's just go back to the beginning of the new year, right? Didn't dress in that Atlanta loss, but did play in that Philadelphia loss and has played ever since. So his stats since the turn of the new year, he's been shooting 43% from the field, 32% from 3, only averaging 17.7 points per game, still grabbing a lot of rebounds. He has been a good rebounder this year, grabbing 11 boards per contest, still shooting 80% from the free throw line, getting there, shooting 5 times a game. All that to say, I do think that if you're the Hornets, you got to have a meeting about it. You have enough assets to go after somebody like this that may be on his way to becoming like somewhat of a distressed asset. Is that fair to say? Are people overreacting in New York? Is Charlotte maybe going to take advantage of the brass in New York overreacting to Cat's struggles despite just hitting a lull in the season? Maybe. What you would have to do with Karl-Anthony Towns making a lot of money on the books for the next 3 years, assuming that he opts into his player option. Although maybe you just parlay that into another big contract. Who knows? But if he opts in, Doug, he's on the books for this year, 2026, 2027. He's making $57 million. And then in 2027, 2028, he's making $61 million. That's the player option, $61 million by the time you get 2 years out from now. You'd lean all the way into offense, right? You're not trading LaMelo in this scenario, I wouldn't think, with Jalen Brunson, with all the backcourt guys. So you'd have Cat and LaMelo on the books for $100 million, and you'd be leaning all the way into offense. You'd give up, I guess, what? Miles Bridges? You'd have to give up maybe Ryan Kalkbrenner? My sweet Musa. Is he going somewhere? I hope not. First round picks, too. You're adding assets to go get a Karl-Anthony Towns for sure. When you assess the risk of it all, I know we like being in the conversation. When you assess the risk of it all here, Doug, are you just all in on a shooting big man that you'll just give the Knicks whatever they want? 5 first, all the swaps, all of it. But when you start to take a step back, I know you're joking. It's just, I know you've wanted a shooting big man for quite some time. When you take a step back, how do you assess the risk?
I wouldn't do it for 5 first. I wouldn't do it for 4 first. I would have questions about doing it for 3 first. But, you know, the way they structure these firsts are weird. Like sometimes it's a swap. The Hornets do have 2 first-round picks from 2 other teams in Dallas and Miami. That Dallas one, it looked great at first and then started to look bad, and now it looks great again. So I don't think they would want to give that one up. But the Miami one is lottery protected, and in 27. So, there's a lot of different ways to structure that. But I don't think
By the way,
you would
trade
want
it while you still have it before Miami has a chance of getting it with the Terry Rozier stuff. Just trade it real quickly.
Exactly. So here's how I assess the risk. The risk of not making a move at some point, of not doing anything to bring in an all-NBA level talent, that risk is pretty clear. And the risk is you never make the playoffs again. So, at some point, they have to do something. And I think Karl-Anthony Towns would be really interesting. You bring up that you wouldn't necessarily have to trade LaMelo Ball. Well, not yet. I mean, not in that particular deal. But I think you could then you could say, look, you're trading for Karl-Anthony Towns. His offensive talent alone is probably enough to propel you into the back half of the play-in, and then you do get LaMelo playoff experience, more postseason experience, and hopefully Karl-Anthony Towns would be healthy enough and playing well enough at that point. Change of scenery, he gets boosted. You're surrounding him with a lot of shooters. I think you could see a scenario where everybody gets some playoff experience, and then you go into that offseason saying, okay, now we know we have to pay Cat a lot of money. We've got to re-sign Brandon. So, how do we structure the team around what we know we have to pay and what we know we're about to have to pay? And that could involve moving LaMelo for some more wing defense pieces to go around Kon Knueppel, Brandon Miller, and, obviously filling some kind of point guard role that could both shoot and facilitate, but not of the gravity and the cost that LaMelo Ball comes with. So, I don't think about Karl-Anthony Towns as the final move. I think it's the move in the direction of building a team that can actually contend.
Let's talk more about it. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
We'll talk more Cat trade rumors, a Steph trade fantasy, and then we'll rummage through the Sicko Satchel. That's all coming up next. Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo. QUO, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. You might love how Quo makes everything simple. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number so nothing gets missed. Everyone sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal. And Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps so details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Want to tell you about the Everydayers Club. Thank you for making Locked On Hornets your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network out there. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayers Club. You get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Hornets, compatible with Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get your pods, and you get an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for the listeners of this show. All you have to do is go to lockedonhornets.supercast.com, lockedonhornets.supercast.com. All right, just continuing to talk about the idea of going after Karl-Anthony Towns with Steve Popper popping some articles off saying that the Knicks are looking possibly to move on from him. At least they're just having chats with teams like Memphis, and the Hornets were included there. Well, I try to make the money work. So what would it look like, Doug? If we talk about what you would have to give up in this scenario, I don't think LaMelo is going to be a part of the equation, right? So let's just hold on to LaMelo, even though that's the biggest chunk of change that you could use to get as close to Cat's money as possible. You're not trading LaMelo in this situation. So you trade. Miles Bridges is always the guy that's dangled out there. Miles Bridges gets you about $20 million right now is what he's making. 25. Let me pull up the Hornets. Yeah, $25 million. So that gets you that gets you about halfway there. Then you're talking about Colin Sexton, and that's a contract that's coming off of the books. I think that would be attractive to New York, to where you just shed the salary from Cat, and then you have an expiring deal with Colin Sexton. You only have one more year left on Miles Bridges' deal. You could possibly trade that after you acquire him. And then at that point, it's easy. Kalkbrenner, the first-round picks. Are you more inclined to hand over some first-rounders that you've accumulated in other trades that you've made? Or are you going to have to give them another center? Not a shooting center, because we don't even have one of those. But are you more inclined to give them Kalkbrenner? Musa. I wouldn't think it'd be Musa, but you get the idea. Another young piece that the Knicks would want. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking if the Knicks were thinking, hey, Giannis isn't available right now. It looks like he's going to stay through the season, but if he's available in the offseason, or if he's available at some point next season, wouldn't having numerous contracts that are about to come off the books, like a Josh Green or a Grant Williams or a Miles Bridges, wouldn't those be, Colin helps them immediately, but then that just puts a hole in their books. But if they had those ones that are going to expire in the next year, those would be a lot more attractive to a potential Giannis run, to Milwaukee, because they would want to start to get ready for their tear down and rebuild. So that's why, a package that includes Miles, Josh, Grant, and yes, look, that guts a lot of the depth that it's like, I know what this is sounding like to people. It's like, wait a minute, the Hornets finally get healthy. They finally get some depth. And now all of a sudden you want to cast off all of these players. And it's like, honestly, yes, because that's the way it works in the NBA. You have to have all NBA talent. That's why, so many, I'm sure there'll be comments, well, he can't do this. And there's this part of his game that's weak. It's like, you can't, you can't overthink that when you are talent deficient like the Charlotte Hornets are. You have to think, how do we acquire all NBA talent in a way that makes sense for whatever future we imagine with Kon Knueppel? And I get shaky thinking about a little Kon Knueppel, Karl-Anthony Towns DHO game, pick and roll game, like just the shooting threat that presents and the problems that presents. They're different players, he and Jalen Brunson, but it's a lot of the same problems that the Knicks presented for teams in the playoffs, trying to guard those two at the same time. Like that's sexy to me.
Yeah, it is sexy. I do like the idea of the offense just leaning all the way into shooting, because that's what you would be doing if you brought in Cat. So the idea, for the sake of this conversation, Karl-Anthony Towns, let's just say that he would run with Moussa Diabate as the starting lineup is currently configured. Let's just say if it's Miles, it's Colin, and then it's whoever else, right? Whatever salary filler. It doesn't have to be that, by the way. I'm just trying to figure out what would make the most sense. I would imagine the Knicks want Miles Bridges. He has been in trade rumors before. Matt Moore from Hardwood Paroxysm said that the Bucks are checking in on Miles. It's just people are checking in. So let's just put him out there, not because I'm so desperate to get rid of him, just because people are checking in. So Miles, Colin, Josh Green, Grant Williams, however you want to make up the money, the starting lineup would look like LaMelo Ball, Kon Knueppel, Brandon Miller, and then Karl-Anthony Towns, Moussa Diabate. So you would have the shooting threat to provide the space for some of those guards to work, while also having the crazy defender in Moussa. I will say, you put Karl-Anthony Towns next to Mitchell Robinson in New York. Does it look a lot like what you have here with Karl-Anthony Towns and Moussa, except you just have taller Moussa Diabate up with the Knicks organization? Because the offensive rebounding prowess for both of them are insane. Mitchell is an insane offensive rebounder. Yeah. Mitchell is also extremely strong. So is Moussa. Mitchell just has the length to contend with the taller guys more so than Moussa does. But I do feel like if Moussa was 4 inches taller, he might look a lot like a Mitchell Robinson. But then you start to think, okay, well, that idea works in my brain. This super mobile big that can run and defend and hide Karl-Anthony Towns' deficiencies. That works for me, right? So then why is it not working for New York in terms of them wanting to trade him being the scapegoat? I actually haven't checked the numbers for Cat and Mitchell on the floor. Maybe I can look that up while you're talking or during the break. But those are all my thoughts as I start to figure out if I really want to go all in on Cat. To me, just to put a bow on it, I'm thinking no. Look, I'm the more careful guy. I get it. I know you want to go star hunting, and it makes all the sense in the world. Cat, really talented player. My whole thing has been, it feels like the Hornets want to be OKC, and OKC doesn't make the big-time move. What they do is they keep drafting talent, and then they hit on said talent, and then they hit with all these ancillary moves. Like the biggest move they made was trading for Alex Caruso when they flipped Josh Giddey for him. Big time in terms of impact, but not big time in terms of what you traded. It wasn't this blockbuster trade. This would feel more like close to a blockbuster trade, and I would just feel more comfortable right now holding on to my assets and cashing in on something other than Karl-Anthony Towns. That's the way I would lean, but I would certainly love to see the shooting with all of these other really talented offensive pieces.
I think part of the issue for Karl-Anthony Towns in New York is Mike Brown. I think like from jump, they did not see eye to eye. Like in the offseason and media day, they were asking Karl, like, what's your role in the offense going to be? And he's like, I don't know. So like they are not simpatico. And the pace and space, the way they're running the offense there in New York is different from what they were doing. A lot of high pick and roll with him and Brunson under Tibbs. They're just not doing it that way. You know, the Hornets want to run. I think a lot of that is because they have LaMelo Ball and because there's a feeling like this is how we win. I think now more and more they're getting into more ball movement stuff and being more effective in the half court. I think Karl-Anthony Towns would come here. I think Charles Lee would want to help shape things around Karl-Anthony Towns, whereas I think Mike Brown came into that situation going, I can fix this. You know, I'm gonna come in here to all these guys that were under Tibbs, show them how it's done. And some guys took to that, and some guys didn't. I don't think Cat took to that. I don't think he likes his role in the offense. So I think if you're trading for Karl-Anthony Towns, you have to be aware of that. You have to understand that. You have to be prepared for like, okay, what does he want to do? Because we need to do that. So, yeah, I am more in favor of something like this because we just did that 2016 segment, and it made me all sad thinking about the last time that the Hornets were in a playoff series. I am getting a little impatient, if I'm being perfectly honest, and I think Karl-Anthony Towns is a very, very good player and can instantly turn this franchise into a franchise you would want to talk about. And I don't want to make the same mistake with Kon Knueppel that they made with LaMelo Ball, which is not putting enough. They tried a little bit, but not going all the way, not being aggressive enough. When you hit the lottery, you need to be aggressive, and they hit the lottery with Kon Knueppel. They need to be aggressive and get that guy to the postseason ASAP-sually.
Okay, would you rather trade for Karl-Anthony Towns, or would you rather bring Steph Curry home? All right, coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Oh my God!
Bees everywhere!
Steph said that he wanted to wear 30 if he came to Charlotte. At least he asked Dell if he was allowed to wear 30 if he ever did end up playing with Charlotte, which, if you ask the question, it means that it quite literally was once upon a time on his mind. Once the Hornets retired Del Curry's jersey, maybe he would unretire it for Steph. Who knows? We'll figure that out if there's a possibility for that to happen. Coming up next, LOH. This episode is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life, people. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. That sounds nice. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives a real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert did not file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. More Locked On Hornets ahead. What is this concoction you're cooking up with Yahoo Sports Daily? Doug, talk to the people about Steph Curry in a Hornets uniform.
Oh, well, listen, I mean, I'm the guy that writes the book and goes on the talk show. You got to read the book to find out. You got to watch Yahoo Sports Daily to find out what I've been cooking up behind the scenes in terms of Steph Curry and Charlotte. What I can tell you is that Jimmy Butler tore his ACL, and the Golden State Warriors are in trouble. I mean, they were already in trouble to a certain degree in that everyone thought, hey, this team, although they were playing better, and Jimmy Butler in particular was playing better before he was injured, that they still needed something. They still needed to do something in order to get themselves back into contention over the next couple of years, the final years that they would have with Steph Curry. But now with Jimmy Butler out for the rest of the season, and questions about whether he can continue the rest of his NBA career, being that he's torn his ACL at age 36. I mean, that's a difficult thing for someone to come back when you're 30, like Klay Thompson was. But when you're 36, it's even more difficult. And so a lot of people are asking now, like, is this era of Warriors basketball over? Would they consider, when they might not have considered before, would they consider now moving on from Steph Curry? And Steph Curry, for his part, a few years ago, I believe 2022, when he got like the key to the city or something, he got himself on record and said, if I'm not going to play for the Warriors, I'm going to play for the Hornets, the hometown team. His dad's getting his jersey retired. They asked Dell, hey, if Steph comes back, would you give up the retired number? He said, of course I would. He's already asked me about it. I said, of course I would. So, I mean, it's natural. And I have it on the graphic here. It's not a trade rumor. It's a trade fantasy. It's natural to fantasize
right.
about Steph Curry, who I should say is playing at all. He's an all-star starter, and I don't think he's like an honorary all-star starter. He's playing at an all-star, nay, an all-NBA level at age 37. He's amazing. He's a marvel. God. And even if you only got him for one season, it would lift the Charlotte Hornets almost immediately into some form of Eastern Conference. It's certainly relevancy, but even more so than that, I think contention.
You know what's crazy is I didn't realize that Steph Curry was 37. Like it's not that I didn't know it, I guess, more so than I just don't think about it, and I don't think about how crazy that is that he's 37 years old. And I think
only gets worse. It only gets worse from here, Walker. It only gets worse from here.
Well, the reason for that is because LeBron James, anytime you talk about an aging basketball player that is still a really, really good NBA basketball player, you immediately go to LeBron because he's 41 right now. Maybe next on that list, because he got to the league just a little bit earlier, I think you go to Kevin Durant, who is also amazing at basketball. Kevin Durant is also 37 years old. For some reason, I just don't view Steph as 37, and yet he's almost 40. And yet he is averaging 27 points per game, shooting 39% from three-point land, on 11.5 three-point attempts per game, and the overall field goal percentage is still very good at 47%. It's amazing that we're watching three guys that are 37 or older still be this effective at basketball. And with LeBron, you see signs of slowing down. And Steph, you do too, for sure. But not to the point where it doesn't feel like Steph couldn't be a major contributor for the next 3 years. I don't know. I don't know what it could be. I mean, shooting helps you age, and this man is not going to be a bad shooter. It does feel like if you were looking for the conditions, right, just to prove your point even further, if Brad Panovich explained the difference between a storm watch and a storm warning, and we've gone with this example before, I think the Steph Curry trade storm watch would look a lot like this. Del Curry having his jersey retired. Steph Curry asking Del if he ever played for the Hornets, would he be able to wear the number 30? Del Curry saying yes. Golden State crashing and burning all around him with Jimmy Butler enduring an ACL injury. Draymond Green, we know about all the shenanigans that he's been a part of on the court, where Steve Kerr, you can lip read what he's saying, I'm so bleeping tired of Draymond. That was like 13 incidents ago. I'm so bleeping tired of Draymond Green. Klay Thompson is now playing for the Mavericks. All of this stuff, yeah, man, maybe we are allowed to have this fantasy.
Yeah, the watch is the good word for it because it's not warning. And I guarantee you're going to, like Nick Friedel or somebody's going to come out and say, the Warriors absolutely will not trade Steph Curry under any circumstances. Won't happen. Draymond Green, not trading him either, because the Warriors are going to say that as an organization until the very moment that they get into a room with Steph Curry and they say, look, Steph, here's the deal. We've done everything we can. We don't think we can do any more. What would you like us to do? Would you like to stay here through the rebuild and retire as a Warrior? Would you like to go home? What are you interested in? And then at that point, Steph will have to make the decision. This is not going to be a Luka situation where suddenly we wake up and Steph is shocked. That's not how this is going to go down. And Charlotte would have to be willing too, because you're taking on a player at 37 years old. You don't know what 38 is going to look like. You have to think you got to sign him to some kind of extension almost immediately. And so that, again, is going to put a big old albatross on your books, or could be an albatross. But, it's going to be a big number regardless, and that's going to affect how you proceed with Brandon Miller, with Kon Knueppel, and whatever you fill in after that, because I think this deal would have to include LaMelo Ball because of the size of Steph's contract, but also because of, I think it would give Warriors fans at least something to hope on and something younger. But can you hold on? Let's pause here for a second. Can you imagine after everything that Draymond said about the Hornets tanking and not playing LaMelo? It's like, all right, Draymond, now you have LaMelo. Let's see what you guys are doing. You guys want to play him in the fourth quarter? You guys want to play him? You guys want to start him? He's your problem now.
Well, I would still like him to be my problem, quote unquote, because I want Steph and LaMelo to share the court with one another. To me, you talk about running pick and rolls and seeing the court with Cat and Kon Knueppel. LaMelo and Curry is melting my brain. I would love to see both of those guys with running. Could you run they've experimented with this a little bit, by the way, because Charles Lee has done a great job of setting up the screener to become really efficient with three guys being, in the top 13 in terms of efficiency, points per possession as the screener. Could you allow LaMelo to set some screens for Steph or vice versa? Like Steph set this inverted pick and roll, and then those guys play off of one another with the gravity that each of those guys bring, with LaMelo having the playmaking ability. Steph is a really good passer too. Oh my God, that would be absolutely insane. I think your Golden State would want LaMelo, though. To your point,
yes,
Golden State would want him.
Yeah, and that would reduce your picks needed to make it happen. I still think you would need three. And again, it could be in some form of a pick swap on one of them or something. Like, it doesn't need to be. It's not going to be three unprotected first round picks. But if you gave them the poo-poo platter and said, all right, Miles, Josh, Grant, and Colin, that probably gets it done. That's like 4 or 5. Like, they're not even going to be interested unless you do. It's not that it's worth 4 or 5. It's that they're not going to be interested unless you come in with the Danny Ainge Godfather offer. And so with LaMelo, it's going to still be a huge offer, but it's not going to be a Godfather offer. And all I would say is, look, LaMelo is a very special offensive player. There's no doubt about that. The way he transforms this team when he's on the floor versus when he's off, no denying that. He's not an all-NBA player. He's not even an all-star level player right now. Sometimes he plays like it, but not all. They're not even playing him a lot or enough to be an all-star level player. But he's certainly not an all-NBA level player. That's what Steph Curry is. Immediately vaults you into Eastern Conference play-in discussions, possibly moving into a playoff series, and then you get a full off season, and then you get next season to say, all right, we've formed the team around this core of Curry, Knueppel, Miller. Now let's go see what we can do. And I think they would be in the conversation, certainly, not to win the East, but certainly to be in that top 6.
Yeah, and final point on this. Golden State would ask for everything, and they would have to, because you can't come back to your fan base and say, we settled for anything less than everything possible for the best player in franchise history, and most likely, 99.9% chance, will always be the best player in franchise history. And all we got was 3 first rounders, and it's no disrespect at all to LaMelo. I mean, we're talking about you could argue top 10 player all time. If you wanted to say top 5, I'm not really here for the debate of going back and forth, whatever you want to say he is. You have cases and points to make that he is that. And so if Golden State tries to go back to their fan base and said, that special group, we sent Klay Thompson to Dallas in this weird, complex 3-team sign and trade, and we got 3 first and a couple pick swaps from Charlotte for your hero. Cool? Thumbs up? Let's play some basketball. Nah, man, you can't tell your fan base that.
And one thing that makes this difficult too is that like Steph Curry, let's say Steph Curry was like, all right, I don't want to really stay around with that. Charlotte's the only place I want to play. I'll go there. But what these guys do a lot, and in fairness to them, look, they've only got a few years left. He doesn't want to go play for the Charlotte Hornets. He wants to go play for the Charlotte Hornets. Like that isn't decimating their entire bench. Poor Nets.
Yeah, buddy. Let's let the space between.
Oh, you know what? I hear it now.
N.
I hear it when I said it. I hear it now.
Zion Williamson wants to play for that team.
Listen, if they try, I'll tell you, if they trade for Steph Curry, it will be the Hornets to me.
Yeah.
All right. So he wants to go play for the Charlotte Hornets that hasn't decimated their entire bench to acquire him. So the LaMelo thing, let's say LaMelo Green or LaMelo Grant, however you want to structure it, that makes sense for the aprons. It puts Hornets in an apron. I think it puts them in the first apron. So it's a commitment by the organization to say, all right, we're now driving forward. I think it gets Kon Knueppel postseason experience. It gets Brandon Miller postseason experience. And you don't look. We talked about this in the last episode. They're doing a lot of gymnastics right now with their whole rotation around trying to keep LaMelo Ball healthy. You don't have to do that anymore. You just say, all right, Steph, go play. Like you're going to play in the first quarter. You're going to play in the fourth quarter. You're going to start. You don't have to do any of that anymore. It's just, to me, it would be a win for both sides. But the thing is, Steph has to want it. Charlotte has to want it, and Golden State would have to concede, all right, it's over. And those are a lot of hurdles to overcome, which is why this still lives in the realm of fantasy.
How much do you think people have called Brooklyn the poor Nets? The poor, Nets. How many times has that happened?
I needed to space it. I just rammed right through it.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it again.
Yeah, you did it again. All right, let's move on before you do it in additional time. That will be it. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, let's just we don't need to move on. We need to move on to the next day's show. I do have some good Sicko Satchel questions. I think I'm on solo tomorrow. Walker's got the day off because what are you doing? Yep. What are you doing, Walker?
Oh, man, another FanDuel appearance, baby. I'll be on the broadcast with Shannon and, of course, Eric and Dell for the first home game that we've had since the West Coast Roadie. So I'll be on the broadcast tomorrow. Appreciate everybody watching, sending the support, all that good stuff. So Doug will be on solo tomorrow, and then I'll be on solo, I think, Friday. We'll team back up together on Thursday. So that's the schedule for the rest of the week. And regardless of what it looks like, thanks for making us your first listen. What else you got, Doug?
Just that, if you have Sicko Satchel questions, now's the time. Join subtext.com/Lockdown Hornets. I already have 3 really good ones, but I will pack that show full and go rapid fire if I have to answer your questions. So hit me up there. Join subtext.com/Lockdown Hornets.
EveryHornetsBoxScore.com. That's the Substack. Also go check out Yahoo Sports Daily with Jason Fitz and Caroline Fitton. And there you can go check out the Steph stuff I was talking about. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Sports Radio. 92.7 WFNZ. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.
See you.